Hello and welcome to CN Professional Institute. In this video, we'll be looking at simple and compound interest. I'm sure most of us or all of us have heard of simple interest and compound interest. So, what's the difference between the two? What's the difference between simple interest and compound interest? All right. So, we are going to start with simple interest, and then when we are done, we'll move on and look at compound interest. We are going to solve some questions. We are going to be doing some calculations or some computations, right? So, stick and stay. Let's start. What is simple interest then? Before we even define simple interest, what is interest in the first place? All right. So when we talk of interest, we are referring to an extra amount of money that an investor receives after investing a certain sum at a certain rate for a certain time, right? Or interest is the additional amount of money paid by the borrower to the lender for the use of money loaned to him. Now, what do we mean? Interest comes in two forms. Okay, it comes in two forms. It's either interest received or interest paid. Right. So if you invest your money somewhere, you receive interest. Right. If you borrow money, you pay interest. So interest is either the money or the extra money that we receive. Okay, when we invest somewhere, or the extra money paid because we borrow what fund. Okay, so if you go to the bank and you go and borrow money, you pay the interest. If you go to the bank and you go and invest, you receive. So interest is either paid or what received. All right. So that's what interest is. So when we talk of interest, it's two sides: either interest received or interest paid, depending on whether you are investing or you are what borrowing. If you invest, you receive interest. If you borrow, you pay interest. All right. So that's interest. Now we have two forms of interest. We have the simple interest and the compound interest, right? So we have the simple interest and the compound interest. So these are the forms of interest. We have the simple interest and then the compound interest, right? So we're looking at this along the line. So let's continue. So let's pick the first one, simple interest, and look at what it is. So simple interest, right? So when we talk of simple interest is where the annual interest is fixed at a percentage of the original amount borrowed or invested. Simple interest is interest that is not what compounded, or interest that does not compound. So when we talk of simple interest, this is a type of interest where the interest to be computed, interest to be paid or received is based at a fixed percentage of the original amount borrowed. That's it is a fixed percentage of what the principal, right? So let's say you invested, or let's say you invest 5,000 um in a bank, all right, and then interest is 10%. Okay, if the interest is simple interest, then it means year one your interest will be 10% of what the 5,000. You see, it doesn't change. Interest for year one will be 10% of what the 5,000, which will give you 500. If you go to year two, it will be the same 10% of what 5,000, which will give you what 500. Year three, it will be the same 10% of 5,000, which gives you what 500. So you see, that's what we are seeing now with simple interest. Okay, the interest to be paid or received is based on a fixed percentage of the principal. So it's based on what a fixed amount or a fixed percentage of what the amount borrowed or what invested. So simple interest is fixed, it doesn't change, okay, irrespective of the number of years, it remains the same. Year one interest or interest for year one is the same as interest for year two, which is interest for year three, etc. So simple interest does not compound. It is fixed. It's at a fixed percentage of the principal and it does not change. It remains constant throughout the year. That is simple interest. Interest which is fixed at a percentage of the amount borrowed or the amount invested, and it is interest that does not what compound. Now, how do we compute simple interest? This is a formula we use, and I'm sure you are familiar with this formula, maybe from your senior high or wherever, right? That interest is principal times time times rate, or principal times rate times time, all divided by 100. Or interest is what? Principal, rate, and time. And both formulas are the same. Okay. The difference is that if you look at this one here, we have out of 100, and the 100 is from the rate. No, rate is a percentage. So if you have 10%, then the same as 10 out of what? 100. Okay, but this one has no divided by 100. So with that one, the rate will be like a decimal. So look at this. If you have 20%, okay, in this first example here, or in this first formula here, you write the whole 20. I following, ask your R. So R will be the whole 20. But with this here, R will be what? 0. What? 2. Hope you are following. And because this will be divided by 100. I following. So here, if you're using this formula here, then your R will be the whole 20. It will be what? 20. But if you're using this formula here, then your R will be what? 0.2. All right. So basically, it's the same formula. The same formula. So that's how we calculate simple interest or total interest. Your principal, the time, and then the rate, multiply them. You can divide by 100 or not divide by 100. And it said P is the principal, R is the rate, and T is the time. All right. So that is simple interest and how we compute what? Simple interest. So you just know the formula and that's it. Now, you can make any of the elements the subject. For example, you can be given simple interest and be asked to calculate what time or rate. So we said if you look at here interest, we said it's equal to what? Principal, rate by time. I told you can divide by 100 or not. You can be given interest, okay? You can be given rate, you can be given time and be asked to calculate what? The principal. You can equally be given the time, okay, together with other elements and be asked to calculate something like the rate. So you can be asked to calculate any of them, not only calculate interest, calculate interest. Sometimes you can be asked to calculate the principal, you can be asked to find the rate, or you can be asked to find time, and it's all about change of what? Subject, right? Okay. Now we have amount repayable is equal to principal plus what? Interest. If you go and borrow $50,000 from the bank at the end of the period, you don't only return the 50,000 that you borrowed to the bank, you have to add interest to it. So the amount that you have to pay back to the bank is equal to the principal plus interest. So let's say the bank is charging interest of $1,000. So at the end, you pay the 50,000 principal you borrowed plus the 1,000 interest. So in all, you pay $51,000 to what? The bank. So that's the 50,000 plus what? The 1,000, which is 51,000. So the amount repayable is equal to the principal plus interest. So note that the difference between the amount you've borrowed from the bank or whatever you borrowed, the difference between the amount you borrowed and the amount you are paying back is all the interest. Because with this example I gave, you borrowed 50,000 from the bank, but you are returning or you are paying back for 51,000, right? And this 51,000 includes what? The interest. So the difference between the 50,000 you borrowed and the 51,000 that you are paying back is the interest, which is what? The 1,000. So let's not forget that. Let's not forget that. So that's simple interest. Okay, just know the formula and then the amount repayable, which is equal to the principal plus interest. If you are investing, the amount you get back, okay, or the amount you receive at the end of the period will be the principal plus the interest. The same thing. As we said, interest is either on the amount borrowed or on the amount what? Invested. So if you go and invest somewhere at the end of the period, you get the principal you invested back and you also get the interest in addition. Okay. So that is simple interest. Now let's solve some questions. As we solve, we will explain more, right? So let's look at some questions. Let's look at this example. It says a person borrows 10,000 at 10% with with principal and interest to be repaid after 3 years. Calculate the interest and the amount to be repaid at the end of the 3 years. Okay, so here we have to calculate the interest first. You have to calculate the interest first here. Solving this, we have interest is equal to principal times rate times time divided by 100, because we can divide by 100 or not. So I'll look at the other one where I will not divide by 100. Okay, so this will give us principal is the amount that we initially borrow or we initially what invest. Okay, and the rate is 10%. Yeah, because I'll divide by 100, I will just write the 10. Then the duration is what, 3 years. And all divided by what, 100. Okay, so when you solve this one out, these two cancel these two here. So 100 by 100 by 10 by 3 should give us 3,000. So 3,000 is the interest. Okay, or what we said, if you are doing the other way around, if you are using principal rate time and you are not dividing by 100, then your principal is 10,000 by a rate 10%. So in this case, the 10% will be 0.1, then by what, 3, and this will give us the same what, 3,000. So these are interest. All right, so we've gotten the interest. Then amount repayable, okay, at the end of the 3 years, we said it's the principal plus what, interest. So the principal is the initial amount borrowed, which is 10,000. Interest is for 3,000. So together we have 13,000. All right, let me add the Ghana cedi here. So this is how we go about it. So just know that the amount repayable at the end of the period will be the principal you've borrowed plus the interest. So the difference between the principal and the amount you are repaying is the interest. Okay, let's look at another example. Calculate the principal that would earn 5,100 cedis, simple interest at 8.5% in 4 years. So here we are not asked to calculate the interest, but we are asked to calculate what, the principal. And as I told you, it's all about change of what, subject. So what I'll do is, let me divide this into 3 here. So we know that interest is equal to what, principal times rate times what, time. Okay, so I just do change of subject. My interest, okay, so we've been given the interest here. So the interest is 5,100 is equal to principal. We don't know, so that's what we are calculating for. So P, we know the rate 8.5%, which will be the same as 0.085. Okay, time is 4 years. So that, don't forget that 8.5% is 0.085. You can just use your calculator if you are struggling. So 5,100 is equal to 0.085 by 4, and that will give us 0.34 times what, the principal. So how do we make P the subject? Divide here by 0.34, divide here by 0.34. So this cancel this, right? So P will be your 5,100 divided by 0.34, and that gives us 15,000, right? Okay, so the principal is what, 15,000. As simple as that. If you want to use the other formula, which we said interest is equal to principal times rate, okay, times time, here all divided by 100, is also allowed. The same thing, 5,100, that's the interest, is equal to, we don't know P. But here the rate, we are going to write the whole 8.5. And then the T is what? 4. And all divided by what? 100. Are you following? So if you do cross multiplication, you can do your cross multiplication. So if you do your cross multiplication, you have 5,100 times 100, which gives us 510,000. Then it's equal to P times 8.5 times what? 4. So 5,100 is equal to 8.5 by 4. I'm getting 34. So this equals 34 times P, which is 34P. Okay. So to make P the subject, divided by 34, divided by what? 34. So we are going to have 510,000 divided by 34, which gives us P to be what? The same 15,000. So this is a principal. All right. So in this question, we've been given the interest. We'll be given the interest rate and the years. And then we are asked to calculate what? Principal. Let's get another example. Let's look at this one too. It says, calculate the time period over which 50,000 invested will earn 1,125 cedis in simple interest at 4.5%. So here we're calculating time, but as I said, the same formula. Oops. As I said, let me divide the screen. As I said, the same formula. All right. So interest is equal to principal rate time. You can write by 100 or not. Okay. So the interest is given the question. Calculate the time over which 50,000. So this 50,000 invested. So this 50,000 is what the principal. Okay. I told you the amount we initially invest, or the amount we initially go for as loan, is the principal. The initial amount is the principal. So we are still doing change of subject. So the 50,000 is the principal. Then we'll earn 1,125 in interest. So the 1,125 is the simple interest. And then we have the rate. The rate is at 4.5%. So let's fix the elements there. Interest is what? 1,125. We know the principal, which is what? 50,000. Then we know the rate. The rate is what? 4.5. But here, because we are not dividing by 100, I have to convert the 4.5 to decimal. Okay. I have to convert to decimal, which will give us 0.045. Okay, then times what? T. And the T is what we are looking for. That's the time. So I have 1125 is equal to, then I'll multiply the 50,000 times 4 point what? Times, sorry, I'll multiply the 50,000 by 0 point. So 50,000 times 0.045. And I'm getting what? 2,200 and what? 50 times what? My T. So 1125 is equal to 2250 T. So I divide by 2250. I divide by what? 2250. So this will cancel this, right? So if you divide 1125 by 2250, I'm getting 0.5. So you see my T is what? 0.5. And that's the time. Okay. So 0.5, time 0.5 is the same as what? Half a year. I don't know if you understand. Or 6 months. Don't forget. 0.5 a year is the same as half a year. Which is the same as what? 6 months. All right. So that's the time. Okay. Now, if you want to look at the other one too, or it's the same thing, I'll just use interest is equal to principal times rate times time. Here, I'll divide by 100. It's the same thing. So if I divide by 100, the interest is still the same, 1125 is equal to principal is the same, 50,000. Rate is what? So here, write the whole 4.5 because I'll be dividing by 100. So that's 4.5 then by what? My t. Or divide by what? 100. So I'll multiply the 112. I'm doing cross multiplication. So I'll multiply the 1125 by 100, which give me 112,500 is equal to 50,000 times 4.5 times what? T. So 50,000 times 4.5. That gives me, so 112,500 is equal to 50,000 times 4.5 is giving me 225,000 T. So to make T the subject, you divide both sides by what? 225,000. So 112,500 divided by 225,123. And this gives me the same 0.5. Are you following? Or half what? A year or 6 months. All right. Let's try another one. So this one is very simple, but you don't worry. Let's give it a try. A person borrows 100,000 for 4 years, at an interest rate of 7%. What must he pay to clear the loan at the end of the period? At the end of the period. So, oops. So the amount that he has to pay to clear the loan at the end of the period will be equal to the principal plus what? The interest. It will be the principal plus the. So the amount he has to pay to clear the loan and the principal at the end is equal to the principal and what? The interest. That's the amount he has to what? Pay to clear the loan at the end of the period. So we have to calculate the interest and we add the interest to the principal, and that will be the amount he has to what? Pay. So you realize that the same interest is equal to principal rate time. So we have interest is equal to principal is the 100,000 borrowed. Okay. Then we have rate is 7%. So because I'm not dividing, I'll just make it 0.07. Then time is what? 4 years. Okay. So we have 100,000 times 0.07 times 4. And this gives us 28,000. Can I see? So this is the interest. So the amount that he has to pay to clear the loan at the end of the period will be the principal. Okay. Which is what? 100,000 plus the interest 28,000. Which will give us what? 128,000. And we've established this principle already. If you borrow money, at the end, you don't only pay the money. If you are charged interest, interest will be what? Added. So that's it with this question. Then let's look at another one here. A person invests 60,000 for 5 years at an interest rate of 6%. What is the total interest received from the investment? So here we are not borrowing, but we are what? Investing by the same principle. Okay, the interest is the same 10 principal rate time. Okay, which is equal to 60,000. That's the amount we invested. Rate is what? 6%. Okay, and again, because I'm not using the other formula, divided by 100, I'll just write 0.06. That's 6%. Okay, years is 5 years. So if I do it that way, I have 60,000 times 0.06 times 5. So I'm getting 18,000. Okay, so this is what? The interest that this is the total interest received. Now here we are not asked to do any amount that we are going to receive at the end of the period. They said we should calculate only what? The total interest. If you have to calculate the amount that will receive at the end of the period, they will add the principal to the interest. In that case, you add the 18,000 to what? The 60,000, and now give us 78,000. But here we are not. So very simple. Then we look at this one too. It says a person borrows 75,000 for 4 months at an interest rate of 8%. I said this is an annual rate. So they said the 8% is an annual rate. Okay. What must he pay to clear the loan at the end of the period? So at the end of this period, he has to pay the principal and what the interest. So you have to calculate the interest. Okay. And add it to 75,000. Now, how do you get the interest? You have to watch out that this rate, they said, is an annual rate, but we are doing the computation for only 4 months. So we can't use the whole of the 8%. The 8% is an annual rate. So you have to change the annual rate to what? 4 months. How do you change to 4 months? So you start your rate now. It will be equal to, do it this way, the 8%, you can divide it by 12. So that you get the rate for what? Each month. I following. Divide the 8% by 12 to get the rate for each month. The end times how many months? 4 months. Now you can do it this way. Right. So 8% divided by 12 by 4. And you see this will give you something like 2.6667. It continues. I'm trying to write all so that I get a more accurate answer. So this is a rate. Don't forget, the 8% is for what? A year. But we are doing the interest for only 4 months. So you can't use the whole 8%. You have to change the 8% to also what? 4 months. So that it correspond. Okay. So this one method. Another method is that you can maintain the 8% and also change the 4 months to what? Years. So you see, we have two alternatives or two methods. Okay. So let me wipe this one here and we will look at both methods. So the first method is you can do it this way. So let's say method one. Method one, you can, as I said, you can convert the 8% here to what? Month. And method two, you can change the 4 months to what? Years, because the 8% is what? For a year. So you have to convert it to 4 months. And I'm saying that to do that, it will be the 8% divided by 12 months and multiplied by 4. It's the same thing. It's the same as you dividing the 8% divided by 3. And you get 2.6667%. Don't forget that. So if you have that, then your interest will be equal to the principal, 75,000. This amount we invested, okay, or the amount we borrowed, the amount borrowed. So the interest times the rate, which is 2.6667%, which will be what? 0.0667. So you can continue and write it as many decimal as you want so that you get a more accurate answer. Okay, then times so here will be like times 1. You can even leave it that way because it's not up to a year. Okay, so yes, you've converted the rate, the 8% to what? Month. So just multiplying that. It's not up to a year. But it doesn't matter if you bring this one here because if you multiply anything by 1, it doesn't change. Okay. So 75,000 times 0. Is 0.02. Okay. So let me 0.02. Okay, before the 666, before the 26 start coming, and the last one can be what? 7. So don't forget that this your calculator can do anything for you. Just punch, write the answer down, and this should give you something like 2,000 approximately. Okay, that's 75,000 times 0.026667. So this is interest. Okay, so the amount that we paid at the end of the period is a principal 75,000 plus the interest 2,000. Okay, which gives us 77,000. Now with method 2, we want to do it this way. You see, with method 1, we change the rate. We change the 8% to month. With method 2, we rather change the 4 month to what? Years. So that we will maintain the 8%. So in that case, you maintain the 8%. So in that case, your rate will be what? 8%. Okay, by the time, okay, it will be the 4 months divided by what? 12. So it is 1 over what? 3 years or year, whichever. So you see, with method 2, we have converted the time rather to what years, so that to correspond with the 8%. The 8% is annual, it's years. So if the 8% is years, then you also have to convert you also have to convert the 4 month to what years, so that it correspond. Okay. So in that case, how is it going to be? So we are going to have your interest to be equal to the principal, which is the same 75,000. Okay. The rate will be 8%, which is 0.08. I told you, if you are divided by 100, then you can use the whole 8. Okay. Then times the time is 1 over what? 3. So 75,000 times 0.08 times 1 over 3. And that should give us the same 200,000 or 2,000. Okay. So that's the interest. Then amount at the end of the period will be the principal 75,000 plus 2,000, G70 what 7,000. So that's it with this question. You have to watch out the rate. That's the issue. The rate is 8%, which is for a year, but we are doing the interest for what? For only 4 months. So we said, okay, if that's the case, then we have two options. Method one is we have to convert the 8% annual rate to what? Monthly rate. So we converted it to what? 4 months. So we divide the 8% by 12 times 4, so that we can get the rate. So this rate is for what? For 4 months. Then method two is that we will rather maintain the annual rate, the 8% here, and rather change the 4 month to what? Years, so that they will tally. They all be in year. So we change the 4 month to years, which means we divide by 12. We divided it by what? 12. We'll go 1 over 3. So now the 75,000 times 0.08 by what? 1 over 3. And that gives us the same answer. All right. So let's pause here. Let's end here. Now, this is not all. We have another complicated questions coming up. I think question 5. Yeah, we have more questions. I have another complicated question I want to solve with you also on simple interest. Right. So we are not done. We are done with simple interest. Then we move to compound interest. So let's end here. If you've not subscribed to my YouTube channel, please subscribe, share with your friends, so that they also benefit. Okay, so you can share with your friends so that they can also benefit from what we are doing. And if there's anything you want me to work on, any improvement, any suggestion, you can do that. All your comments are warmly welcome. Also, if you want to be a chartered accountant, you can join CN Professional Institute. Once again, CN Professional Institute is an accredited tuition provider. So you want to be a chartered accountant, you want to be a chartered tax practitioner, you want to write your professional exams, right? So any professional exams you want to write, you can register with CN Professional Institute. We have qualified tutors that will take you through complicated and complex questions and prepare you adequately for your exams. We also have scholarship packages available. So you can just contact us and see if you meet the criteria. If you meet the criteria, you can apply and study with CN Professional Institute on a scholarship as you prepare to be a chartered accountant, as you prepare to be a chartered tax practitioner. All right. So let's end here. We are going to continue solving more questions in part 2 of compound and simple interest, or simple and compound interest. I'll see you in the next video.